Well, welcome, everyone. And it's nice, actually. Maybe I changed the strategy a little bit as to how I'm going to run this if we're a little bit smaller. First of all, my name, Julia von Winterfeldt, and I live in Hamburg, which doesn't sound as great as Rome, but it's also a beautiful city. And I have been in digital, not was, but I have been in digital for 20 years. And I always am very proud of saying that I put the first pixel onto the Adidas website, or Adidas website, which was basically a GIF that you could then turn, and we were sitting around the computer incredibly excited going, wow, you know, this thing can turn, and it's great, and it's super, and it's Adidas. And that was the expression of Adidas, and that was it, basically. And then that was back in '96, and then obviously slowly we would add more images and then text, and then this site would grow. And it's just amazing how and what has happened in 20 years, what technology has done to us or is doing for brands as well. So I was in the business of digital, always on an agency side, agency and consulting. So I was with companies such as Accenture, which probably everyone will know as a brand, but I was also with large digital agencies. And on the 9th of January 2015, there was a mark in my life that changed everything. And the thing was that I was sitting with my boss at the time. I was running an ideas and innovation company, basically a digital agency called AKQA in Germany. And I was sitting with my boss at the beginning of the year. He flew in from London, sitting together, and he asked me, "You want to come in?" "Yeah."
"We're going to go through."
Go through. And he said, "So, you know, what are your plans?" As it always is at the beginning of the year, what's the strategy for the next year? What are your plans for 2015? What are you going to be doing? And I'm like, well, you know, the company's stable, the financials are stable, the people are quite stable, and, you know, we're doing good things. We're working with Audi, we're working with Deutsche Telekom, we're working with Montblanc and Swatch, great brands, and it's really good, I think. And he said, "Yeah, you know, I think we need to do something radically different." And for whatever reason, do you want to sit down? Yeah, you okay? Okay, so for whatever reason, in that moment, I don't know what came over me, but in that moment I said, I think the most radical thing we can do is that I quit. And this just came out of my, you know, obviously it doesn't just come out, and it had some thought, and I was already thinking about doing something different, but I didn't realize that on the 9th of January it would actually sort of like come out of me, and it did. And then he's like, no, that's not what I meant, you know, I mean, yes, radically different, but no, you're staying. And I said, no, I think actually I'm going. And I don't really register anymore what exactly I was saying and why I was saying it, but it was for me the most befreeing moment. And you know, running a company, it was a 70-person team. Obviously there was a lot of then talk afterwards how to, you know, make this all happen. But in that moment, I just felt like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to do. And I tell you why. Being in the digital business for the time of 20 years, and I was, you know, doing a lot of then at this time, so 2015 to 2013 to 2015, a lot of app development. We were for Audi building their Car2Go solution, which launched in the US. And, you know, we were at the top of our game with great digital stuff. And I said to myself, as I was in this company, I said, you know, there's two things I really don't like. One being, I kept going to London every quarter, as you do in a big company. It was a WPP company, reporting on numbers. And the board there was always like, okay, so, you know, what's the margins? What's your top line? What's your bottom line? How are you going to make that up? And I was just like, is this all it is of being a leader, is like you report on numbers? No one was asking me, you know, how are the people? No one is asking me about what are we doing? What are the products that we're doing? And I'm like, this cannot be leadership. This cannot be the reason why I'm actually standing in front of 70 people running this company. And the other dynamic that was going on in my head was, as we were supporting these companies like Audi, I was wondering the whole time, Audi had created a GmbH, so a small company of its own entity, that was in the business of innovation and driving new products, digital products. So, it's something that many large corporations are doing at the moment. They build up a GmbH, and these are the people that are then innovating and driving new business models, new businesses. And I was thinking to myself, if this group here is building new stuff, what are the other 10,000s or thousands of people actually doing? How are they at some point going to merge and become one company? And that fascinated me, that dynamic, that thought of how are people going to be brought along on this new development, in these new technologies, in this maybe even new business model that, for example, automotives are thinking of, which is mobility. How are people going to actually move forward with this dynamic? So these were the two things that I've been thinking about and said, okay, I don't want to be running a business just on numbers. It's not my style. It's not what I want to do. I may be great. I may be, pictured in great magazines because I'm the boss of everything. But, running it by numbers is not mine. And two, this thought of if digital is, becoming more and more our center of what we do, how are people actually in organizations going to be? So that's why I would love to talk to you about making leadership human again. And with my company today that I then founded after I said I'd quit, which is called Soulworx, I saw and found my passion, my purpose, my cause, my belief of really wanting to put back humanity and purpose into organizations. For me, it's really important to do that. And what I do, is basically help companies reinvent themselves, make them relevant again in today's age. That's what I do, but my passion is about making sure that companies really have a purpose and really are all about the human beings in that, what they're doing. And for me, when you think about the digital side and what we're talking about today or even yesterday, the question came up, well, is automation, is then the AI and machine learning going to replace jobs? Obviously, if my passion is about bringing humanity into organization, I'm like, ooh, geez, I should be concerned about this because maybe there is some truth to this that jobs will not necessarily go away, but jobs will shift. So how are we going to bring that psychology into organizations and help people go along with this shift? So it's, it's found out that many companies, leaders particularly, are really engaging in this AI, in this machine learning, in all of this technology to really gain profits, to put down and make profit. Right? They're looking at it from an economic gain, they're looking at it from a financial gain, but they're not looking at it from a people perspective. And when you look at some statistics, this is a book that I recommend anyone can read. It doesn't actually have this photo on it, but a book called Time, Talent, Energy, written in 2017 by two people from Bain & Company. And they did a big research, and they found out that an inspired person works twice as productive as a satisfied person and 3 times as productive as a dissatisfied person. And a lot of our organizations are focused on customer satisfaction or employee satisfaction, but no one's thinking about the inspirational side of things. And I think that's where we have to start to think about, well, what is leadership? How do I inspire people to really believe in something, to do something that I or the leader wants to do? So I'm going to invite you, being a little bit experiential and being also a little bit on the yoga side as well myself, I'm going to invite you to start to dream. Start to dream, and while I'm talking about this dream, see what images come up for you, okay? So we're going to project ourselves in our dream about, let's say, 15 years ahead. And you're actually, and maybe this is not the image that you need to put into your head, but you're actually talking to a robot, right? You're talking to this robot, and you're interacting with this robot, you're collaborating with this robot who's incredibly intelligent, who is absolutely clear on what he or she needs to do. And you're there talking to this robot. And now imagine while you're still talking to this robot that you've got all of this digital sensor stuff on you, and you're being quantified as you're talking to this robot. And you're being told whether it's an app or some devices tell you, maybe you should leave the meeting with this robot in 5 minutes because you can then go off and do something of more importance, or you can then make this decision, or you should be picking up your children, or you should be going and having the next meeting, because this next meeting is going to be telling you something that is even more important than talking to the robot that you were just talking about. So you're being constantly quantified by the data. And you're in that scenario, right? You're in that. And it's useful. You can see, okay, I need to leave this meeting right now in 5 minutes because I can then continue. So staying in that dream, you're also not necessarily working with people in your direct environment. You're actually working with people that you're bridging through digital that actually you don't really see every day. You know, we had a talk earlier about the freelancers and super freelancers. So there's sort of this digital nomad life. So you're interacting with different people in different spaces. And ultimately, you're in this very connected world, a very connected digital world. Connected with people, obviously, on the other side, but maybe people you don't really see. My question to you is, in this dream, how are you feeling? Responses. Something must have come up. Something.
Nerve-wracked.
Okay, nerve-wracked because... Support, transported into? Say it again, sorry?
Transported. I mean, the feeling is like float.
Okay, it's flowing for you. Okay, good. Yeah.
The decision maker, my power of the decision maker has been taken away, so I don't decide anymore for myself. So it's somebody else.
Right. You felt you were relying on the technology telling you things, or?
Yeah, like, I just need to follow somebody else instead of me owning my life or my decisions.
Right.
A machine owning them.
Yeah, yeah. Anyone else?
A little bit scared.
Scared.
Comparing to the reality.
Yeah.
It's very nice, we were talking before. Fascinated, linked to the future. Probably it's not even the reality, but even the past, because we already feel in.
Going in, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But where is the real work? Are we able to face with the real work? Because sometimes we have to face in a very hard way.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for my ignorance, sometimes I don't know if we are able, if we really understand, if the two worlds are really going
Yeah. Together.
hand to hand, or one is going by himself, and the other one is still stuck on the reality.
Yeah.
Because we need, as Maslow said, to eat, to sleep. No, this is the first level.
Yeah. And you say the two ways is like some people will want to stay in a world of this reality, and others will take themselves into a very fluid, technology-driven reality.
The first is people have to stay on the real world.
Yeah.
Because they need to.
We need to anchor ourselves somewhere. Mm-hmm.
It's the nature,
Yeah.
the reality.
Yeah.
And the other part is a virtual reality, or is a reality.
Right.
Do we will be really able to live the reality and to leave the real world? I don't know.
Well, maybe there's a different answer that I give you is you're making me feel as though reality is this what we have today, and this reality is going to take us every day. And I think reality will change. So we will always be in a reality at that point in time. And we will always have some kind of imagination as to what the future could be, because we love that as people, to think about the future. But it is important to acknowledge what this reality is right now, and not to either, in this scenario that I just brought you through, to either be scared with what's coming up in future, or to believe that it is fluid, which is great, or to feel nerve-wracked about something, because we don't know. We just don't know. We're here right now, and there are dynamics happening. And I think one dynamic that is happening is that we're looking a lot on technology, and we're putting a lot of our efforts into technology, at least this group of people, otherwise we wouldn't be here. Obviously not the bank accountant that still has a job is necessarily thinking about this. But yeah, there is a reality that technology is giving us opportunities to work differently, to be different, and to have more intelligence for ourselves, as well as to put intelligence into machines. That is reality at the moment. But how do we actually work with that? What does that mean for us? And I'm coming back to leadership, right? What does it mean as a leader to be thinking through this? And my take is Just one question, if this is a reality, let's quickly put ourselves back into the future space. If this is a reality, who is actually leading? And you said that could be, you're not actually making decisions anymore. There isn't really someone either leading you, or you're maybe not even leading yourself. You're getting all of the input from the outside. That's one possibility. But there is maybe another possibility. Who's leading us in this?
Money.
Money, maybe, yeah.
Financial desire.
Financial desire, financial gain, financial power, control, whatever it could be, is the one that's leading. And many say, the companies, as in Google and Amazon, they're the ones that are going to be leading us because they have the power of the data, they have the power of bombarding every type of industry. They will be the ones leading us, and we actually won't be. That's a very dark scenario, but it's a scenario that's being put out there. Sorry.
I remember, like in the 60s, you had like Asimov's robotic laws, which is like pure science fiction. But right now, I mean, like for example, with the AI team that Elon Musk is actually building, he's actually asking for kind of laws to make sure that we remain the leader. I mean, it sounds totally futuristic in the first moment, but for me the question is actually, can we decide without those rules that we are still the leader? I mean, I don't want to make up a dystopian future, but this is an ongoing discussion.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
As an alternative to money, leading the future, maybe having fun.
Having fun.
Enjoying the future.
I like that one. I prefer that one, but yeah.
Since we will have a lot of spare time, probably.
Yeah. Well, maybe we will. Maybe we won't. But I think there is a concept of when we're having fun, we don't worry about time because we're just having the fun and we're still being as productive as we can. So we are actually working because we're having fun by what we're doing, whatever that is. But yeah, no, I like that scenario as well. Well, I think to bring ourselves back to this reality today, to come back to not what's out there, what's happening today. There is, and we heard from a super freelancer perspective, some of this already in the earlier conversation. But today's reality, at least how I'm experiencing with companies, and I'm, as I said, trying to help them reinvent themselves and make themselves relevant, they are seeing the reality of people are becoming more individual. What does that mean? People are realizing that they are actually they can demand their own needs, they can actually decide when and where they want to work, they can decide what it is that they want to do because of digital opportunity. It's helping them actually become more individual and not actually live the dream of someone that they're working for or work for the dreams of someone else. So this is reality today. People are seeing an opportunity of their own individual needs and putting these individual needs more to the forefront and demanding that either companies or that they split and jump out of companies to then establish their own environments. So that is reality number one. Reality number two is there's a lot of recognizing flexibility. What does that mean? Many companies in their current state are having to work with home office or having to work with maybe a 4-day week and recognizing that people want to be more flexible again in how they're actually engaging with work, maybe working mornings and evenings and then having the afternoon time to then be with their children. So there's that flexibility, but obviously there's flexibility in where and when you can work. If you're working here in Rome for 2 days and then you move on to Bali, we had that conversation earlier as well. This flexibility is reality right now. It is possible and it is something leaders and organizations need to think about. The third is collaborating. Now, obviously we know about the sprint and the design thinking and the Scrum formats, all these different processes, but I'm actually thinking about or talking about communication and how we can start to communicate at far more levels, in far more spaces than we are just when we all come together in one space and communicate here. There's a different format of collaborating, and this is finding a form of process, meaning how and what we're doing together, and it's giving more opportunity for individuals to do something together. That's a reality that leaders and organizations need to acknowledge and need to understand and then react to that. And the fourth area is if we're not necessarily able to always or want to every day be together, there's a reality now of creating new kinds of spaces of where we can come together. We've heard earlier about the co-working, co-living. We're in this arena right now and seeing that there's a different way of working. But why are organizations not thinking about how to create different spaces so that things like creative thinking or ideation can actually happen in a space that isn't quite so boring, but is actually generating that inspiration and that thought leadership. So these are realities that are happening. And now I think it is important that leaders then start to think about this and to ask themselves, what's my role in it? My question to you would be, how are you experiencing, not knowing what type of working world you're in, but how are you experiencing leadership right now?
Challenging.
Challenging, yeah, why?
It's really challenging because you have to create new things to keep your team involved and curious of what they're doing and knowing what's next, what's waiting for them next. And for example, for the first time in our team, I have a mom that I thought what she would enjoy in our office.
Yeah.
And I thought smart working. We never tried but why not starting? So let's try. And she's doing 1 day of smart working every week.
Yeah.
So I did. It was my first time, but it's my challenge is to try new things because I don't want to just be stuck in what people usually do. I want to try new ones and I want to see what works in the future.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. So
Yeah.
I challenge myself to try. I could be wrong, but I could be right.
Yeah.
So let's try because it's the only way to find out. So that's how I feel.
Perfect. No, a challenge. And then also just in that scenario, how do we work together if there's this smart work around it? And I think you're absolutely right. It is challenging for oneself. And it's also important to challenge the current status and try things out. So yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? How are people feeling or experiencing rather leadership?
It's a lot about facilitating and inspiring because you daily work with people who have deeper knowledge and understanding of small bits and pieces of what you're doing. So you can't be an expert on everything.
Yeah, no. And how do you, if you think about it, so how do you inspire? How are you inspiring individuals? What's your take?
Constant job. You have to consciously do it every day in small bits and pieces. Again, like you show them stuff and you expose them to stuff and you have sessions like this and whatever. Yeah,
absolutely.
Value sharing is probably used the most to try to inspire the people whenever everybody's good.
Yep, exactly. So a lot of openness and communication and therefore sharing. Absolutely.
I think it has to do with if you love what you do. And most people hate what they do. That's the biggest conflict in leadership altogether. So it's not fun. I think trying to figure out that you hire the guy or girl to do the job that they love, that's the tricky part, and it's easier to lead. But, I think that's the biggest conflict. You hate what you do.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, most people really do not enjoy what they do because mostly the individual, i.e. the leader who's taking them there, isn't giving them that space or the inspiration or the tools to actually do what they should be doing. And they just usually go because they know it's money and it's a job and okay, well, I'll do it then. But it's saddening, I think. It's really saddening to see how many people are very unhappy in what they do. And it's, we should all be taking accountability for knowing it's each one of our jobs to make the other individual happy at what they're doing. And it's unfortunately rarely the case, but we can change that. I think for me, leadership as we move through these dynamics of different ways of working, of individual needs or listening to individual needs, I think the key aspect is taking inspiration also into consideration and valuing what you're sharing is actually losing your power and control, or letting go is probably the nicer way of saying it. Letting go of power and control. Why do we believe that we need to be, when we hear the word leadership, we always feel like it's that person on the top? It's that person who makes the big decisions. I think that's still a concept we have in our heads. I really do. I mean, if you believe otherwise, then tell me. But I do think when we hear that word leadership, it always sounds very important. Ooh, it's all leadership. I'm right up there. But I actually do believe leadership has to now take a stand of letting go of that control, letting go of that power, letting go of saying, you know, I'm going to take the big decisions, and actually being far more humble. And I'm painting a little bit black and white. I think there are great leaders that are doing this, but be more humble and actually, you know, include, share, bring together, show direction, but not necessarily say that's the direction we have to take. It's options, opportunities, in order for every individual to then either bring their own selves to it, or at least be able to align to that. So for me, that's a key thing. First of all, when we think about making leadership human again, is let go of the power and the control. And that says actually let go of your ego and let go of believing that you're something really important if you're, you know, on the top, on the magazine or wherever you are. And it's difficult because we love our selfies and we still, you know, we love to feed our ego, but it's key from my perspective.
For me, it's also that person that helps you to find a new sense to things. Because, for example, when I saw the robots, if I were as I now acting normal things, I would try to understand and to use all that to find a new sense for people. So
yeah.
It's a kind of leadership. No? It's not indicating the direction, but to find new meanings. And
yeah.
And really to take this new sense and meaning to people of all these things. This is really engaged for me in leadership. It's just not to have the right vision, but to have the new sense and a new meaning for that.
Yeah.
That is relevant for people, and so also in order to change, to start big transitions, but they are relevant for people.
And then using data, did I hear that right? So using the intelligence but
I think that this is an opportunity we have, and we have now, and we will have. So
yeah.
To lead the game, not because I'm not interested in money, that's why I have no money, but anyway, not because I don't like money, but because I think that we must find another currency. Other currency is all about human values.
Right.
And so it's time, it's satisfaction, it's enthusiasm, and I'm trying to shape and design a new model, economic business model based on these new currencies.
Yeah.
So I think that finding new meanings could be a really good way of exploiting leadership.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I would agree. I think that it would be not right to say that leadership should only be driven from a point of coming from within. We can be using data, but I also think in that world we have to be conscious of how we're using that data and how and with what ethics and morale we're actually taking that data to then serve the people that we're working with and for. So I think there's a fine line to be had. I think it's important that we look at the data, and I think it's also important to come from within, but we need to be careful how manipulative maybe we can become if we have all of this data as well. But it's coming. So to sort of paint the journey, what my subjective answer is, what would make it human again, next to first of all losing the control and power. So think again from there's this dynamic of everyone's looking at the business models, the new opportunities, the growth opportunities, the economic opportunities because of technology. There's that dynamic, and then there's this dynamic on the human side where people are identifying their own individual needs, where they can actually cater to these needs and they can start to work in different ways. So these two dynamics are happening, and it's bringing a confusion to the leader, a challenge to the leader as well. I've got to be innovative and economically stable, and yet I've got to cater to these human needs. So what can I do to still be human in this and not necessarily only sway to the one side, being what I see at the moment too much on the technology side. So here are my 4 points that are my subjective points. I don't like to say that these are right, but I believe after everything that I've studied and still studying, obviously, that there are 4 things I think leadership needs to embrace as we move forward as of today. The one is, and you can already see it, is be open, meaning be aware, be present. Too many leaders are seeing this all very much on a cognitive level, and they're working in the technology space to gain these opportunities, but they're not actually present. They're not actually real to themselves. They're not actually there. Who am I? Why am I here? What is it that I feel? What is it that I sense? What is it that I see? And actually be present in this moment. It sounds a little bit like, you know, right, okay. But I really, really do believe that the more present you are as a leader, the more clear you will be in these dynamics that are challenging, that are coming from both sides. And you can maneuver yourself and maneuver others then to follow through that. Techniques of how to do that, you know, I often get that question, you know, great, okay, so how do you do that? You know, there's obviously a whole rise of meditation, and now we've got meditation apps as well. There's journaling, a lot of, particularly, by the way, digital nomads do a lot of journaling. They're really trying to document what they're doing every day, what brings them happiness. And I think it's great conscious work for them, and that's probably why they are able to become either entrepreneurs, if not serial entrepreneurs, because they're so much more conscious and so much more present in what they're doing. And so that's, for me, one way of, first of all, becoming more connected with yourself and becoming more human. The second is find purpose in what you're doing. And again, you know, if I'm a little bit like critical, I would ask the question, okay, so why does this idea need to really be in this world? Why do I have to really automate this? Is it just the economics of it, or is it because there's some grander purpose behind that? I had a wonderful talk with a startup who makes a drink from the cherry beans of coffee, and they were devastated by all of the rubbish that once you make coffee, all of these cherry beans just fall. And they said, we've got to stop that. And they actually found out how to make a drink out of all of this waste product. And for them, it wasn't really about the drink. It was about how can we start to recycle and make new things by being more sustainable. So it's a wonderful story. It's not the only story of how to find purpose, that you have to think of it more environmentally. But I think really every one of us should be thinking about what it is that I intend to do and what is it that I want to bring into this world. And with that, you'll find that your different activities will align to making that purpose, making that intent happen. And I question whether big organizations really today have a purpose. Organizations that have existed over many years really do have a purpose. The third is building connection, or we like to often call it communities, you know, build the communities, connect to communities, be with communities, or to have then the opportunity to really to collaborate, to communicate, to learn, to give feedback, to engage, and as a leader, not to have this shyness of actually saying, you know, how am I doing? You know, what is it that you're actually gaining from me? Is there something else I can do for you? Often we feel like, yeah, I don't want to hear that feedback because I should be much better. You know, I'm obviously leading this group. But no, I think it's important to build that connection, to really engage with individuals and to learn that you're not, as we already heard just now, you're not the solution, you're not the intelligence. It's really the group that will come up with the right intelligence. So building that connection, which again is so difficult for humans, if we're really honest to ourselves, finding true connection, I would even go further, finding true intimacy and learning from the other individual is a really difficult task for each one of us. And last but not least, you know, showing that imperfection. In sort of this concept of leadership, we always feel like that leader knows everything, right? And I think it's really important for us to recognize that we're not perfect, and we just don't know everything. And the way we look isn't brilliant at every day and every moment in the day. So making sure that we are vocal about that we're not perfect, and allowing others to see that, and allowing others, and this is where this fail fast attitude also comes from, knowing that you can fail, knowing that that's fine and that's not perfect and that's okay, and knowing that you don't have to come all the way to perfection. So those are my 4 beliefs as to how we can make leadership more human again. Again, it's a subjective view, and I'm finding that when I work with leaders, and that doesn't just have to be the top leaders, when I work with any individual, every one of us is a leader in what we're doing. And as we break up these ways of working, becoming more collaborative, moving from one project to the other, being more fluid, we will always be having different leaders. So each one of us will be a leader, and hence I think it's really important for each one of us to think about these 4 points. Reactions. Not quite. That's nice. I'm not quite finished, but yay! Love it. I don't know how much time I still have.
15 minutes.
15 minutes, that's good. Yeah, quick reactions to that. Is it something you can align with? Is it something you can feel? Is it something you're like, okay, that's fine, but that doesn't help me really?
Just a consideration by myself.
Yeah.
You are talking about the leadership. Very nice. And but probably we didn't talk about the team.
Mm-hmm.
How you select the team.
Right.
Because to be leader is a difficult job anyway, and full stop.
Yeah.
But to be the leader of a selected team that has and feels the mission is more simple. Sometimes you need to work with people that you find. And to be the leader of this kind of people that has a different mission and they have different necessities are really quite different. I'm talking about my experience and my personal experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes with people that are very close to the mission, you need really to stop them. It's more simple. But to try to follow and to suggest and to let them hear the mission that all together have to follow is a very hard job.
Yeah.
What's your suggestion?
Yeah. Well, I think you know, you can't impress your mission or your purpose or vision onto someone. You can't say, this is it now, you do this as well. Either that individual feels that same passion, and maybe it's slightly, you know, turned to their own individual way of thinking about it. But to have a team member, that team member needs to embrace a very similar mission and vision just as much as you do. And that's, I think, one important aspect of how you choose who you want to work with or want to engage with. And vice versa. The other person should be thinking about, do I want to buy into that vision, that purpose, that cause, or not? And if I do, then, and I like this person as well, it seems like a great person, then let's move together and continue the journey together. But I also find, or am seeing, that trust is a big thing. Often when we're a leader, we don't necessarily want to entrust anyone with everything that we know or feel, or, you know, we still want to be the number one in a way. And that's human as well. But I think we need to learn, and this is where we come to point number 1 again, sort of this open awareness, learn what is it that's really hindering me to trust the other individual? What is it that is making me hold back, or making me feel cautious, or making me wonder, you know, is this person on the same track as I am? So I think trust is a huge effort we all need to work on individually and then as a team as well, and keep questioning ourselves, you know, are we entrusting each other into this mission that we want to make happen? So that would be my response, or at least my observations that I'm having with organizations.
What do you do in your company exactly?
Sorry?
What do you do exactly in your company?
So we work with organizations who come to us with this need of having a cultural change to suit today's situation, or to become more innovative, or to drive a more agile organization. Those are, exactly, so it's a consultancy that is, yeah. But we actually work in sprints. So we've taken the Google week sprint and said, okay, what's the question at hand? And then we, in 1 week, we come up with solutions with the team members of the client, and then bring them back to their own world. Say, okay, off you go. because we don't want to be the old consultancy that is, working 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. That's not, we don't feel is useful.
Can you please elaborate a bit more on what do you intend by showing imperfection? Because I agree with you that this is something very frequently completely missing in the way of behaving of the leader or of the manager, because I don't think all the managers are leaders, but we face every day with the managers, that's the point.
Yeah.
And how is it possible to teach them or to convince them that to show imperfection is a good way of motivating people working with them?
Yeah. So I'll try and do it with examples or with real examples. Maybe that helps, because just theory is sometimes more difficult. So I work with the Deutsche Bahn leaders and one leader who's responsible for the regional train, regional train system. And he used to write, he's an elderly gentleman, about I think 55, and he used to write letters to his people, many people, and just sort of say, update, this is where we're at. Obviously it was an email, not this. This is what we're doing. And people couldn't really connect to that. It was too, it was like, it's too systemized and it's not real. So what did we do to show imperfection and to show more humaneness in him? We saw that many of his people obviously are younger than him, and knowing that people are on digital formats, why do we not have you start to talk about what you're seeing and what you're thinking via video, and do like a selfie and just start talking and then post it on, they have a social enterprise network, and post that. And at first it's like, I may look stupid, I'm probably the wrong words, and at some point he said, yes, I'm going to have the courage. I don't have to be perfect. That doesn't mean that I'm not able to run this company if I don't do a picture-perfect video. And I'm going to just, send out, as if I were talking to my family, what's happened today. Obviously with some not strategic thing, but with some sense, not just like talking for the sake of talking. And it was really well received. And there was like, the only negative feedback that came back was, could you next time please put the microphone closer so that we can hear you? But it was so human and so real, and people obviously, video is more consumed now. People want to see real pictures, not just written or text. But it's, that was one way of showing imperfection. Another leader who's, it's a hotel chain in Germany, who did a employee satisfaction survey. And he got back this complete fail, basically, result, where everyone was saying, you suck as a boss, we really don't like you. And it was open feedback. He asked for it, he got it. He was like, oh God, now what do I do? And basically what he did do, he went 5 days into a, like not an ashram, but like a cloister. What's a cloister in English? Monastery, thank you. Like a monastery, 5 days to just pick himself up again. But then he came out. Retreat, yeah, like a. But he did come out going, okay, I've heard the feedback, and I'm going to now start to show that I'm not going to be perfect in everything that they've asked for me to do, but at least I'm going to start, and then in some things I'll be good, and in some things I won't be good. But that was another, for him at least, where it's changed their culture, where it was a need to demonstrate he's heard the feedback, he's not going to just let it slip by, and he's going to show that he's not perfect either, that he can't do everything.
So is it your point that every time you show imperfections to your employees, you always get some good results? Is it this? Because the point is, if you do not get good results out of that, could there be a situation in which you show imperfection and this imply that your employees trust you less than before?
Right. Yes, that can happen if it's not. There obviously has to be some thought behind. You can't just like go ahead and put the whole company at risk by doing something that's just an effect. There has to be some thought, and there has to be some clearness in yourself first, what it is that you are, and where are you not perfect, and where are you perfect, and have a better understanding of yourself, and then show yourself. So it's not a I'm not saying that you should be completely just through heart and support. That's not going to work. You have to have the brain side as well. But I'm asking leaders to open up their heart more, to put it in that language, but still have the brains, as well.
Do you want to expand a little bit, explain better your weekly concept of answering your customers in a week?
Yeah.
Is that quite interesting to,
our concept, our ways of working, yeah.
Can you explain a bit better?
Yeah, there's so basically, having come from the digital side for 20 years, and at the end doing a lot of Google sprints myself, there is a process in this Google 1 week sprint that I thought and see now can be adapted to cultural questions. So the typical process in when you're developing is find the actual question that you want to solve for on day 1. Day 2, go into thinking and collaboration and ideation. Day 3, work through what you've come up with and find some key learnings and develop something. Day 4 is actually do user testing and see whether it works. And day 5 is you have a solution that you can maybe work with, i.e. prototype or some written up work. So I've adapted that to culture questions. So for example, one very simple one, an organization has asked, how do we break down silos in our organization so that we can help the communication better? And we formulated that question a little bit more distinct on day 1 and said, okay, breaking down silos, which silo should we first of all look at? So we made it a little bit more clear. And then we said in the same question, what is it that we're trying to achieve through this silo breakdown? And then that helped us in the day 2 to workshop through with the client some possible solutions. And day 3 we compacted that. Day 4 we built, in this case it was then, we found out that a better space of community would be good, so more of an architectural question. And then we sort of architected, basically put a little model together. Went back to people in the organization, said, what do you think if this community space would be like this? Would this help bond and bring up conversation? And then we got answers, yes. We had the prototype, did a few more finite solutions, and then gave it back and said, okay, now go build. And they are actually building. Okay. I did have an invitation for a little meditation, but I won't do that anymore. We'll have to do that at some other point because I love meditation. But if you do want to go out with one question and really think about it on your own in a meditative sort of format, and then think about, what does work really mean to you? What does work, not leadership, what does work really mean to you? Work. What does work? What does your work? What does you working? What does work, your work life mean to you? What does work? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. These are the 4 points.